Hello everyone, welcome to Camp Kindergarten. My name is Sarah Scoggin and I'm the Early Childhood Librarian at the Newburgh Free Library, Newburgh, New York. We are going to learn so many things in Camp Kindergarten, things that will help you have a great kindergarten year. We're going to learn about reading, writing, art, math, music, nature, science, and so much more. Today we're going to actually start with social and emotional skills and classroom skills because they go hand in hand and in heart. The theme for the summer reading program is Imagine Your Story. So imagination, stories, storytelling, fairy tales, all of those things are part of the theme. Here's a quick overview of how the summer reading program works. You can come back every Wednesday to see videos like these and just enjoy doing the activities as you like. But there's also an additional optional reading platform, digital platform called Read Squared that you can sign up for and use either on a laptop or on your phone as an app. And Read Squared platform allows you to get points for doing activities and for reading books. For every 100 points you will get a digital badge on your account. And if you get 10 badges, 1,000 points, you've completed the entire summer reading program. So you can get points for what we call missions. So for example, at the end of this video, I will tell you a little bit about the mission. And if you choose to go over to Read Squared, I'll put the link down in the description. You can go to that and take a look. Then if you do the mission, you'll get points for doing that. And as I mentioned, you can get points for reading. So keep reading and rereading. Every time you reread a book, that also counts. And you can log the books that you've read or reread on Read Squared. So without further ado, let's get started. A thought to start. The process of learning should be fun of the highest order, for it is indeed the greatest game in life. So I'm actually going to give a little overview of kindergarten readiness, the standards, and kind of where the kindergarten readiness standards come from. If you would like to skip straight ahead to the social and emotional learning activities portion of this video, you can skip to or if you want to see the overview and kind of get a sense of what children need to know for kindergarten readiness, I have a little presentation here. What is kindergarten readiness? The official definition is kindergarten readiness is a set of skills and developmental characteristics needed to be successful in a formal learning environment. So an example of skills are things like holding a pencil or a crayon in 3 fingers, walking down the stairs with alternate feet, recognizing basic shapes, colors, letters, and numbers, or telling you if words rhyme. Developmental characteristics are things like having self-control, following directions, problem solving, sitting still and focusing for a reasonable amount of time, or moderating voice, not yelling indoors. So you can see the ones on the left, the skills, are a lot more concrete. They're easier to have a lesson about something specific, like how to hold your pencil. And the developmental characteristics, you have to develop more over time, which is why they're great candidates for using games to practice. Here's a kindergarten readiness checklist. If you Google kindergarten readiness or readiness checklist, there are so many. Here's one from Arkansas, Ohio. Here's one from Higher Expectations. Kindergarten readiness skills from Imperfectly Perfect Mama. Here's one from the United Way out in Missouri and Kansas. It's Always Autumn is a blog. They have their kindergarten readiness checklist. Readiness bingo. A school's Facebook page. 100 skills for kindergartners from a homeschooling website. A teacher blog, even Pinterest has to weigh in. So there's so many, where do you even start? One place I recommend starting is the Kindergarten Readiness Interactive Tool. from Head Start, and I will put a link to that down in the description. So there are so many different things you could use, so many different lists. And also the areas of learning, what kind of things do children need to know? Again, too many different ways you could list them or break them down. So I'm just going to use the U.S. Department of Education domains or areas of learning in red there. And then the examples are from Head Start. So social and emotional development is the first one, creating and sustaining meaningful relationships. Learning skills, what they call approaches to learning. Are children curious, creative? Do they take initiative, pay attention? Thinking skills, what they call cognition and general knowledge, things like observing, reasoning, memory, problem solving. Language and literacy are things like listening and understanding, speaking, and the pre-reading skills and vocabulary, not just reading proper. And the fifth one is physical well-being and motor, which includes perception, like they have good vision, good hearing, their gross motor skills, fine motor, their health, their safety, and their nutrition. So it covers all of that. Social emotional learning and classroom skills. You can see how social emotional learning and classroom skills go hand in hand. Students with strong social and emotional skills often find it easier to learn the classroom skills. So for example, a social emotional skill would be separating from parents and caregivers without great or lasting upset. Even though they miss you, they can get into the activities. They can express their emotions, regulate them to an extent, can go for help to a trusted adult, and communicate their needs. Classroom skills are things like managing self-care, using the restroom unassisted, waiting for their turn, participating in a group, and sitting and standing, respecting personal space. Here's some more examples, and I will put a list of these down in the description. I just want to mention one of them here, that using kind words and understanding what words might be unkind are a strong social emotional skill to have. Social emotional learning. Okay, now we're ready to talk about social emotional learning and activities you can do to promote that learning. The first one is being aware of emotions. So helping children label emotions, something you can do right from the very beginning when they're making a face. This is, your face is looking angry, or your face is looking surprised or happy. And a social emotional teacher called Kate Kelly recommends a thermometer for emotions, from starfish to tornado. So to draw a big thermometer on a piece of paper, at the bottom have a starfish, and that's you're feeling calm, and a tornado is the most out of control feeling. And you can invent other animals in between. So you could say, how are you feeling? Are you feeling more starfish, or are you feeling more tornado? Or you could just be energy levels. You can label the thermometer however is most helpful for you and your child, but just to be able to put those emotions in a spectrum. So here's an example of an emotion thermometer. This is one from Social Emotional Workshop, and this particular one is from an author called Laura Driscoll. So she's a big advocate of using the emotion thermometer and having the kids help write down on one side from calm up to furious and what the stages would be in between. She says, are you just a little worried? Are you bothered? Are you upset? And then on the other side, what are you doing? What can you do about it when you feel those feelings? It's a very helpful tool to have the kids help you with, or you can sort of talk them through it if they're a little younger. That can be very helpful for kids to kind of get their head around how to talk about their emotions. From that same website, Kate Kelly, it's called Understood, the website, and she also recommends playing a game. So to observe, because you can observe emotions in others and just observe things in general. So she says, pretend you're a turtle. So you put your neck out and say, okay, we're going to be turtles on the playground. Slowly look around and talk about what you see. I see people having fun on the swings. I see there's
a short line for the slide. I see that those people are running really fast. I see that those two friends are enjoying their game, whatever it is that they observe. So they could be observing emotions or just observing things in general, just them practicing seeing what's around them. Another thing for social emotional learning is making choices. So being able to give your little one choices between two pairs of shoes if both those choices are acceptable to you. So they get practice as you go through, would you like this game or this game? And you're giving them choices where either choice is okay. But more important for the social emotional is to have that one-on-one time with each one of your children, especially if you have a large family, to give them sort of choice time with you. To say, okay, this time is set aside for you. You get to pick. And productive living coach Jordan Page, she recommends giving each child one day of the week, if you can, or a couple days, however it breaks down. And then during that day, they get to be the one that picks the snack. They get the one to pick the color of the dinner plates or the music they're going to listen to in the car or whatever it is that they get to pick, so that they get to be kind of in charge of those things. And then they get a little bit of time during that day, even if it's only just 10 minutes. They get to either stay up later or 10 minutes right before bed to have one-on-one time with you, talk about their day, what felt good that day, to be able to talk about emotions naturally that happened during the day. The next tip is from the book How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. And in this book, they have a section that's called Now That's What I Call ... So it's basically a way of catching kids being good. So if they feed the cat, and that's their job, and you didn't have to ask them, or they're making their bed really nicely, or they figure out a way to resolve a conflict. That's one of the better ones, like their sister and they wanted to play with the same toy, and they figured out, well, okay, you play with it, and I'll play with this doll, and then we'll swap after so much time or after lunch. Then you can say, that's what I call being. So they could be, that's what I call being responsible, or that's what I call being a good problem solver, or that's what I call being honest if they admit they broke something, for instance. So that when you say be honest or be responsible or be a problem solver, they know what that looks like because you labeled their actions with those positive words. And another thing is, again, recognizing emotions, and that is Play-Doh emotion faces from We Are Teachers. So here is Preschool Emotions Play-Doh, and you can see that it's just a face, a blank face, and then the kids create the emotions. So you could say, what would a face look like if the child were sad, so angry, frustrated, surprised, worried, anything you can think of, tired. And if they're having a hard time coming up with what the face would look like, you could pull up pictures, or you could make a face that looks like that and see if they can recreate that emotion. They also have a lot more articles on that site, which I will link down in the description, about using sensory bottles to calm down if kids are feeling upset, or having a calm down corner or a blanket or someplace where they can go to focus on calming down their emotions and then being able to solve their problems calmly if they're feeling very strong emotions that they can't really regulate on their own. Playworks is a website that has a downloadable ebook. It's free, games for social and emotional learning. And one of them is called I Love My Neighbor. And you set up a number of cones or markers outside, or it could be inside a large room. And like musical chairs, you have one fewer spot than you have children playing the game. And so the one person starts in the middle, says, I love my neighbor who, and then they say something that's true for them. So who has brothers and sisters, or who likes pizza, give me anything, but it just has to be true for them. And then anybody else that that's true for has to leave the marker that he or she is on and find another one. So everyone will scramble, and one person will be left without a marker, and that person becomes a new child in the center who says another thing. I love my neighbor who. And you can use it to stress things that you have in common. You could say, I love my neighbor who is in Mr. Jones's class, and then everyone scrambles. Or I love my neighbor who is a terrific kindergartner, and then I say everyone should scramble. So there's lots of games in this book, so I recommend you check that out. Put a link down in the description.
And finally, social emotional learning is great for meshing with the Newburgh basics. So the Newburgh basics are 5 simple strategies for creating a rich, loving, and learning environment at home. And I will put a link to Newburgh basics down in the description. And the first of the basics is maximize love, manage stress. As the foundation for all of the other learning skills: talk, sing, and point, count, group, and compare, explore through movement and play, and read and discuss stories. And now on to classroom skills.
Classroom skills.
One of the standards for kindergarten readiness is children are aware of expectations and rules. And part of that is the routines, being able to go through a routine, know what's coming, and being able to transition from one thing to another. So you can make yourself a routine chart.
So you can see here we have a fancy pocket chart for a schedule. You don't have to be this fancy. You can if you want, but you could just use a big piece of paper with sticky notes for each part of your day: waking up, having breakfast, getting dressed, making bed, anything that you want to put as a unit of your day. Reading stories, quiet time, and you could include some things that you might see in a kindergarten classroom as well. They might have a cleanup time, or a set snack time, or a morning circle time. And kids usually love running and either pulling off the card when they're done or adding it to the list if you're doing it that way.
So once you've got your chart, the list of all the things we're going to do today, you can add as one of those to your routine. If you're not used to doing something like a morning basket, which some people do that from the time their toddler is very young, is to add your own morning circle time. Could be afternoon circle time after lunch if that works better. A lot of people do it in the morning. A lot of classrooms where when the children come in, they all sit in a circle, and they usually go through things like, what's the date today? You could have a calendar, and you could sing a song. What's the weather? What's the weather? What's the weather? What's the weather, everyone? Is it windy? Is it cloudy? Is there rain or is there sun? And you can sing the answer. Sunny, sunny, it is sunny in the sky. S-U-N-N-Y is sunny, it is sunny in the sky. And then you could go through the days of the week with that same tune. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then say, it's Wednesday, or whatever day that it is. And you'd say something special's happening. You'd say, oh, it's Daddy's birthday, or whatever the occasion might be. So sort of giving them practice with months, days, weather, the numbers on the calendar. And another thing they usually do in circle time is read a story as a class. So here I have Nice New Neighbors by Franz Brandenburg. I just want to give you a sample of this. And this one is a really good example of reading a book that you can also use for social emotional learning. The field mice children just want to play with some of their new neighbors. Here we have the lizard children who live not far away, and they say, may we play tag with you? And the lizards say, we don't need you because there's enough of us. And so that would be a good place for you to talk about, well, how do you think that makes the field mice children feel, that the children will play with them? What could the lizard children have done differently to make everyone feel better? Or understanding the effects of their actions. That's another social emotional goal, is to understand the effects of your actions. And it's very hard for little ones to understand the moment before they knock over someone's blocks, say that is going to have this effect, making somebody upset. You could add anything else to your morning circle that you wanted. You could add more songs. You could add show and tell. Especially good if you have a number of people participating, then you could practice taking turns. Taking turns and following directions is actually the very next skill that you could work on. So I have here a very simple board game. I just drew the letters from A to Z, and you could practice having them repeat back the directions. So the directions could be roll a die, count the number of dots, fill that many spaces, and then let's say they landed on H. And then depending on what the children's skills are, you could have them say that it's an H, you could have them draw a lowercase h, you could have them make the sound of the letter, you could have them name as many words as they can that start with H. You can just be very flexible. And maybe each time you play the game, there's a new direction, so they have to practice listening for what's the direction this time. They could flip a coin to move. You can just adapt it. But the main goal is to have them practice following directions, taking turns. They have to wait their turn. You could extend this into a sharing activity. So let's say the goal is if everyone gets to the end, you all get a snack and you all have to share it. Or you all get stickers and you have to distribute them among the people who play. So practicing getting to a goal and sharing. Another version of following directions would be to follow directions with multiple steps. So let's say I have an egg, either real or pretend. I could say the directions are crack the egg, put it in this bowl, and then put the shell on this plate. So they have to remember, okay, crack egg, put the egg in the bowl, put the shell on this plate. So you could think of just in your normal course of playing, or it'd be nice if they could help you with the actual cooking. They would think that's really fun, and they could practice directions of more than one step. Another thing is that children often like to play being the teacher. So if you can, set up a little school corner, and sometimes they're the student and you're the teacher, and sometimes they're the teacher and either you're the student, or they can have their stuffed animals be the students. And if you can, I have here something, chalkboard paint, or you can get a peel and stick chalkboard if you don't have an actual chalkboard, or just something they can write on. You could just put up a big piece of white cardboard or giant butcher paper on the wall, and that could be their teaching station, so that they get to feel like I'm learning, I'm smart, I can be the teacher. Another classroom readiness standard is uses materials appropriately. So not breaking crayons, not only sharing the materials, but also being able to keep track of them. If it's their own things, not to lose them, to have them organized. Maybe they're not used to lining up to get a glue stick, if that's what's going to be in the classroom. I took a shower caddy that I happen to have, and I just put in some crayons just from the crayon box. And I put in some glue stick, tape, things like that, so they can practice getting it out, using the art supplies, putting them back, and maybe putting this back in a cupboard or in a desk the way they might be expected to at school. And also I have here some scissors. So if they haven't started working on scissor skills, they could start with the very blunt, there's dough scissors, they're not sharp at all, and then work their way up to rounded scissors, and then to kindergarten level scissors, so that they'll have their scissor safety skills down by the time they are expected to cutting in kindergarten. Another classroom skill, one that might come to mind right away, is raising your hand before you talk, which they might not have done in preschool. So you could play a sort of Simon Says game. So I might say, do ducks wear hats? Something that they'll know the answer, and then they have to raise their hand and be called on, and then they get to give the answer. And then they can ask you questions too, like yes or no questions, where you have to raise your hand and answer the question. Another readiness indicator is the ability to cooperate to achieve a shared goal. So the shared goal could just be building a tower with all of the blocks. Children are setting goals all the time, but to make that a little more concrete, say, what is our goal? What are we trying to do? and they could come up, I want to build the biggest tower with all the blocks. Okay, that's our goal. And then say, how can we work together? Maybe you can build this tower and I'll build this tower, or maybe the goal is you build with all of the green blocks and I'll build with all of the red blocks, and someone else will build all of the yellow blocks. We'll make a rainbow city, or whatever it is. But to keep reminding them of how you could cooperate, and then when they finish, we say, we've reached our goal. Or if they're having trouble, we say, what can we do to help? Maybe how can I help you reach the goal? Or maybe how can you help so-and-so reach the goal if they're having trouble? So it also teaches them empathy for helping somebody else. Something that's both a social and emotional goal and a classroom skill is being respectful in address, to talk to people in a way that shows kindness, or that shows that respect. So this is a good game to play for role playing, and I'll talk a lot more about dramatic play when we get to the dramatic play episode of Camp Kindergarten. But let's say I have some plastic food, or I could cut pictures out of a supermarket flyer if I didn't have any plastic food handy. So I could pretend that I am going to the grocery store, and the child can be the grocer, and I come in and I say, hello, my name is Ms. Smith, or I make up a name, and then the child has to say, good morning, Ms. Smith. How are you? How can I help you? And then you could practice again and again doing different things, and then you could switch roles. So that would work for pretending you're the classroom teacher, pretending you're a grocer, pretending you're a postal worker. You could pretend to be anything and practice different names. Good morning, good afternoon, how can I help you? Just the way that you would address people that is kind.
Okay, it's time for our mission. I mentioned before, learning mission. So if you go to Read Squared, you can get points for this, or you can just enjoy doing this mission. So the mission is called Getting to Know You. And it's very important that children going into kindergarten know some vital personal information about themselves, their full name. I worked with kindergartners as a school librarian for a while, and there were many kindergartners who only knew that their name was, say, Mike or Michaela, and they just didn't know their last name, or they weren't sure. So there are many different games. I have a link there, Fun Learning for Kids, and you can write out their names, their full names, and have them cover the name with dots or with stickers or buttons or whatever it is that you're working with. So you can take a look and see there are many more Learn Your Name games at funlearningforkids.com. Another thing they should learn is their birthday. So you could sing the months of the year in a song, such as Months of the Year with Mother Hen, or any other song that you can find or that has the names of all the months, and have your child seated on the floor or in a chair. And when the month of the child's birthday comes up, have the child jump up and say the date. Like if they were born on March 10th. First they jump up and say, yes, you were born in March. It's the 10th. And then they'll learn to jump up and say March 10th whenever March comes up. You don't have to do the year, but you could if your child likes a challenge. Most kids like to hold up their finger and say, how old are you? Another thing they should know is the name or names of their caregivers. Again, many 3 to 5 year olds, they just know mommy is mom, dad is just daddy, or grandma, or whoever their loved ones are. So to teach them the names of their caregivers, you might want to work this into the role playing that I mentioned before, when you're pretending you're coming to shop at the grocery store or something like that. You could say, other grown-ups call me, and for example, I would say, other grown-ups call me Sarah Scoggin, and then they can understand that they call you mommy or dad or grandma, but other people call you by your name. Your address, that's one that might take a while to learn, but it goes much faster if you sing it. So I made up this example to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. 16 Happy Lane, that is where I live. That's in some town, New York State, 69696. And you could try to fit it to that tune, or you could use any other simple tune, the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, or another one. And then once you've got the tune, that will make learning it much easier. And you can say that this is your special family song and lead into who should know this information. Lastly, getting to know you, knowing at least one emergency phone number. Get paper plates or big circles of paper and write numbers on each one to create a giant keypad on the floor. Call out the 10 digits of the main emergency number one by one and have your child jump on the numbers and repeat them as they do so. It won't be long before they can jump and say the whole thing without prompting. Review periodically with an old phone, a toy phone, or even a printout of the keypad. You can see in the picture on the left there, you could also do with paper plates or circles on the wall. They could pretend to push the buttons. In the middle there, you can see if children are having trouble with the numbers because they're not familiar with the shape of the numbers, you can practice by writing numbers on a clothespin for each number and writing the phone number on a popsicle stick so the children can match up the shapes of the numbers in the correct order. And lastly, over there on the right, this is a bonus idea to have a picture phone card on the fridge or the wall somewhere with pictures of, say, a police car, fire truck, an important contact, having a photo so that if children ever really did need to call an emergency number and they can't read yet, they'd be able to call the correct number by looking at the picture. And here's a recommendation for Planet Kindergarten by Sue Gantz Schmidt. This is a book about a boy whose mission into space is to go to Planet Kindergarten and meet the natives there. So this is a title available through Hoopla, which is one of Newburgh Free Library's two digital platforms, the other being Overdrive/Libby. So if you have a Newburgh Free Library card, I'll put a link down in the description. You can go and sign into Hoopla with your library card, and you can check out Planet Kindergarten and other similar books. Lots of great choices for reading to preschoolers.
And thank you.